I'm presenting item 8, the 2023-2025 triennial goal. HGAC receives federal assistance from US DOT through the Federal Highway Authority, the Federal Transit Authority, and at times the Federal Aviation Administration. Recipients of these funds are required to set an overall goal for the disadvantaged business enterprises in accordance with 49 CFR Part 26. Next slide, please. The triennial goal is established to ensure that DBE firms have reasonable opportunity to participate in DOT-assisted contracts. DBE program guidance includes that those receiving DOT funds must develop and implement a DBE program that conforms to DOT standards, must also adhere to standards in the TxDOT federally approved DBE, and that we set our own DBE goal based on our data and DBE program following federal DBE criteria. Next slide, please. HGAC Transportation considers a disadvantaged business enterprise as a business that is at least 51% owned by socially and economically disadvantaged individuals that are managed in the daily operations controlled by socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. And those that are small businesses with less than 22.51 million gross receipts. Next slide, please. Those businesses are also must be U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents, and that are women, African American, Hispanic American, Native American, Asian American, Asian Indian American, or others that are determined by the Small Business Administration. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the types of available contracts HGAC Transportation has to offer and the percent goals based on DBE participation. And you can see at the bottom where it says total that as of now, we have a 25% goal for the 2023-2025 triennial goal timeframe. Next slide, please. We also determine HGAC's geographic content market area, and so we must look at the geographic distribution of contractors and subcontractors and the area in which contract dollars are spent. As can be viewed in the map, it has been determined that the majority of contracts are in Harris, Waller, Montgomery, and Fort Bend counties. Next slide, please. So the development of the DBE goal is a two-step process. Step 1 must determine the availability of ready, willing, and able DBE firms, and we must determine the availability of ready, willing, and able firms. Step 2, we must consider other sources of DBE data available and determine if we need to adjust the base figure from step 1. Next slide, please. So in order to determine the base figure for step 1, HGAC Transportation uses a bidders list and the TUCP, which is the Texas Unified Certification Program. We look at the successful and non-successful bidders for the past 3 years. We look at all ready, willing, and able DBEs. We look at all willing and able DBE firms. And all DBEs are vetted by the TUCP and HGAC to determine certification and that they are ready, willing, and able to do the contract tasks. Next slide, please. So when we looked at step 2 of the process, which would be adjusting the baseline figure, we looked at other available data. And in this case, we examined the Harris County Disparity Study for 2020, and we looked at HGAC past participation percentages. And so we concluded that the Harris County Disparity Study differed substantially in contract opportunity types and NAICS code types and should not be used to adjust the base figure. We also concluded that the base figure is in the same range as past percentages and therefore should not be adjusted at this time. Next slide, please. So determining the race neutral, race conscious, we look at the federal regulations that direct the recipients that we must meet maximum feasible proportion of the overall goal by using race-neutral means. We also look at the DOT-assisted contract awards by H-GAC Transportation and have consistently been made on race-neutral basis. H-GAC consequently resolves that the proposed overall DBE goal of 25% will be achieved by race-neutral means, and that no race-conscious measures will be applied towards the meeting goal. Next slide, please. Next slide. Sorry about that.
I'm on the wrong one, Neely.
That's the next one. Okay, there we go. So we developed a triennial goal in the time frame of April through May, and we did the DBE workshop and feedback June 2nd. Our public meeting was June 13th. We are currently in our 30-day public comment period, which is June 13th through July 13th. We are bringing our information items to TAC and TPC this month. We will be going to board action presentation next month. And then again, back to TAC and TPC for recommendations, our action items, and our submission will be August 1st. Next slide, please. And you can go to our DBE page where we have a link to the DBE draft update, which is that link below. Any questions?